Ladies, gentlemen, and dragons of all ages, the Veilguard has now been out for a couple of days, and personally one of the things that I most enjoy with this game is the combat itself. It may not be the most complex thing in the world, but it is fluid, and it has a solid class fantasy behind it, and you can reach levels of extreme power fantasy through it as well, at least if you make the right choices. That said, to reach these sort of levels of power fantasy, regardless of which class you're playing or what type of build that you're going for, the thing that all of us could always use more of is experience, and specifically for the purpose of gaining levels and skill points to spend in the skill tree, up to the limit of level 50, of course. That said, while you get one skill point per level, there is also a way to gain skill points aside from this, and that's how you can really get one over on your enemies early on. That said, today is all about experience and skill points, all the ways to go about getting each of these things, and which are the most efficient depending on your actual goals regarding gaining XP. The first is probably also the most obvious, but do all of the quests. The main story quests give the most experience of anything in the game, but these obviously also move the plot forward. The idea of stacking power like this generally is to try and be as strong as possible for each main story encounter. So let's assume that you don't want to count main quests in for this, as obviously it would be way too clear advice to just say, do the main story and you'll get stronger. Then there are the entire world, though, of side quests, from faction-specific bonus quests to companion quests that you get depending on bond level, and then even just general side quests that can pop up around the world if you're doing a little bit of exploration at the very least, especially by revisiting older areas you've already been to from earlier in the story once you have progressed the world itself a bit further. Quests are the singular largest bumps of experience you can get, and side quests are all doable without moving the main plot forward, so if you want to be the highest level that you can for each main quest, you should make sure that you are always doing all of the optional side stuff first wherever you are able to. Along with this, you want to make sure that you go out of your way to use your companions somewhat evenly. As you play certain companions within your party, you'll build what is known as their bond. As you reach certain stages of bond with the different companions, you will both get bonus skill points for that companion, but also you'll unlock new dialogue with them back in the lighthouse, and eventually you will get companion quests from doing this too. All of the companion quests are worth player experience, so while you could just use the two companions that you specifically want to have with you at any given point, you stand to gain more player power personally long term if you specifically switch things up occasionally and sort of spread your bond out between multiple of your companions. This will get you more quests that you can complete, and also more experience and levels as a result. Past that, you want to absolutely clear maps when you are walking through them if your goal is maximum experience gain with earliest progression. Every time the game brings you through an area past the literal tutorial opening section, no matter how linear it may seem, there are always small branching paths. Sometimes these just lead to some resources or some gold that you can pick up. Sometimes they lead to a free chest with equipment upgrades, which is great too. But sometimes they can lead to things like puzzles that end up giving you experience when you solve them, or maybe a side quest that you didn't know about from just looking at your map, or even something as simple as a bonus combat encounter, because, as you may imagine, killing enemies gives you experience and therefore levels. The amount that you get relative to quest completion XP is generally quite small. Obviously, quests are much more valuable. It is related to the enemy level, which is displayed on their sort of health bar UI, at least if it is distinctly different from the player's level. Usually, though, this won't pop up because most enemies will tend to scale with you, at least closely enough, for that to stay hidden. That said, because of this, it's also worth clearing out every enemy that exists as you progress, even if not required for the quests themselves, as each encounter is its own little bundle of bonus experience, and then even outside of the experience gain, every enemy has drop chances of gold or even resources or valuables that you can then sell to gain faction reputation with the faction of your choice and get better equipment from their shops as well. There is, of course, a way to push this even further, and it's the only real technical experience farming option that we have in the game that I'm aware of, by which I mean the only thing that you can repeat endlessly, and it's quite simply killing enemies. This game isn't like a Dark Souls game. Enemies don't respawn when you die or when you rest, but they do respawn if you reload an entire region. Specifically, if you fast travel, let's say from the Arlothan Forest region to the lighthouse, then travel back to the Arlothan Forest region, the enemies across the entire map will respawn when you do so. Then sometimes it won't be the exact same enemies in the exact same places. They do seem to have some level of variance within it to shake things up, but this is how you make enemies respawn so that you can and fight even more things, and this generally will affect the entire region. So if you really desperately just want more experience before progressing the main story, and you've exhausted every other option, all the quests, all the exploration, this is your only source of proper infinite farm. It just generally is quite slow compared to things like quests. I wouldn't do this expecting to instantly shoot up in levels. I wouldn't even necessarily sit down and do this purposely to get multiple levels. It is a good way to get you just over the edge if you're like 75% of the way through a level and you just want that one extra skill point, and it is the best option that we have for people who do like to play that way, farming experience in a very tangible manner. That said, I hinted at it towards the beginning of the video, but there is one more way of gaining technical experience, but it's an extra special one, as it does not contribute to your cap. It gives you bonus power, and specifically it gives you bonus skill points, and thus more maneuverability within the skill tree, but it does not count towards your natural skill point cap that you reach when hitting level 50, the maximum level in the game. These are Fen'Harel Altars. There are plenty of them throughout the game, and you will find them along your journey, and they usually aren't overly hidden, especially as they will mark on your minimap and then your big map once your character has passed by them, even if you didn't actually see them with your own eyes personally. When you see one or find one on your map, then you want to walk up to it and then activate it by interacting with it. This will then have the statue point a specific direction. If you then walk in that direction, you'll start to hear a sort of spectral wolf howling sound effect, and if your spatial sound settings are good enough, you should be able to use this to get more specific directions, as the goal is the origination point of this sound. For some, it is a simple straight line path in the direction that they're staring at. For others, it takes some parkour or even completion of a previous side quest and interaction, but the end goal when you reach the spectral wolf is that it will turn into a little blue statue. If you pick up the statue, then you will gain 1 skill point permanently. This is above the natural skill point cap, so these are actually incredibly important, especially as if you have, let's say, 5 of them before you hit level 20, that's nearly 25% bonus to your overall skill points just from these statues. It's like full-on extra ability of your choosing, and this provides you with notable power over being level 20 or the level 20 scaling enemies that you'd be fighting either way if you did not have these skill points. The 3 of these that are super easy to find early on in the game then are this one, which is on the main path through the crossroads your first time through the area. It points at a very nearby cliff and essentially acts as the tutorial for this function. Then there is this one in the sort of middle area of the Arlothan Forest. This is essentially active at any point past Parting's first companion quest, in the general middle side of this region. And this points over to the next room over, up this parkour path here, and then over to the ledge that it leads to where the wolf is sitting. Then the third one is the top left section of the Arlothan Forest region, only accessible from the broken bridge that you can also fix for another bonus side quest and a pop of experience 2, worth mentioning while we're here, and in an area with a secondary side quest 2, again all the way at the top left of the region. In this area then, once you reach the top side of it, is a magic tower. In the tower, through a small archway to the left, is another one of these wolf statues. Interact with it and it'll point back down the path that you had to parkour up to get into the tower itself, and then you can drop down to a lower level back over here to pick up the free skill point itself. That pretty much does it for today then, everyone. A general guide on how to gain as much experience and skill points and levels as quickly as possible within Dragon Age the Veilguard. Either the literal route, which is just doing all the main story quests, or the generally more sought after route, which is doing everything possible aside from main story, so you can have as much power as possible for the moments that really count, the big impressive story beats, for the big epic fight scenes with the big impressive bosses, for the enemies the game tells you are threatening, just so that you can be strong enough to beat them to a pulp and feel like you're the one who's an ancient elven mage running amok, whether you're playing a mage or not. I hope you've all enjoyed this then, and hopefully it helps you out in your journey with Dragon Age the Veilguard. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet. Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.